Welcome to Project Starfish. We are an MIT startup exchange company based out of Boston, but we are really work beyond borders. We are the world's number one workforce development platform that has pioneered a training called simulation by which anybody can get the work experience to relaunch their careers. This presentation is typically for project managers looking for experience or veterans with a tremendous operations background or project management certificate so they can acquire the work experience and get back to the workforce and into contemporary jobs. But first, let's explain the barriers to employment. The biggest challenge today is the change in the industry. It just creates skill obsolescence, which means the change in the industry creates a problem where people don't have the contemporary skills, the contemporary work experience, and people don't have the business connections. One of the biggest changes that you're going to observe is the fourth piece, which is automation. Robots, chatbots, or software intelligence or artificial intelligence is going to completely automate the menial jobs. And that is also a problem. So there is a reason for you to get the work experience and make it contemporary so that you can get back to the workforce. And that's exactly what we do. The second piece that you need to understand is the expectations of employers are changing. They do not want to train people because it takes too much of time, too much of money, and the person trained is a promissory note. They would love to basically take the same money, give it to somebody who has the skill, because the same person would be able to get to work in days instead of months. The next important piece that you really need to know is that the world is changing and the industry is changing in a very different way. And there's a reason for us to really take notice. Because the jobs of the future are very different, which means whether it's 3D printed houses to robots to connected cars to virtual reality project management or remote project management to drones and connected devices. Very naturally, with the change in the industry and the new jobs of the future, there's a huge problem with the workforce because nobody is really reskilling a new workforce. That is the exact reason we launched Project Starfish 4 years back, and we are leagues ahead when it comes to creating work experience. The last thing that you need to know is although you may have an education, companies do not pay for education really. They really pay for your value that you create from the work experience that you develop because of the skills you have. Long story short, guys, the good news is if you have the skills, the work experience, the problem solving expertise, and the business networks in different organizations, you're going to get employed. And we'll show how we have created employment. So let's transition over to veterans. If you have a project management interest or a project management certificate or have done project management or have a tremendous operations background, the only thing that you need to do is you need to acquire a civilian experience or an industry experience to basically get into the industry. You see, there's going to be huge jobs that are going to be created. And it's called the digital PMO or the digital project manager. Why? That's because businesses want automation. Those days are gone that there's like a big fish and a small fish. In today's world, it is all about agility, meaning it is about fast fish and slow fish. Companies want automation for agility and to save costs. So let's look at an industry study that has been done by McKinsey. On the left are the industries, And on the right, the lights basically say, or the colors basically say, green is high automation and red is low automation. If you get a chance, it's such a nice slide. Stop the video and take a look. But what does it mean for you? What matters is that there are a couple of industries that are very manpower dependent, and they are dependent on processes as well. What is happening is they either have to automate or they are being forced to automate. That is exactly the reason the industry is going to need a huge lot of project managers. But the skills for these project managers would be different. So the question is, what do we do? As I said, we relaunch careers. For example, look at Ben. Ben was 40 when he became blind. He got a job at ProjectStarfish at the age of 52. So the question is, what did we do? Or what did Ben go through? Ben went through an amazing simulation process to get the work experience, get the contemporary skills, and he was networking with businesses. And businesses loved him. He became a recruiter for a company, making some really good money. So what's our training like? Our training is very similar to something called a flight simulator. But it's really much different. It is very close to the real thing, which means real people, real processes, real companies. Everything's real. However, it's a simulation that is very near to reality. Over here, you're going to go through the close to reality simulation where you work with real people, projects, processes, and deliver based on certain criteria so that you can get that experience. And it's a cycle. The more you run the cycle, the better you'll be able to learn all the stages of project management. Mind it, this is not a software program. This is a real simulation close to reality. It's all real. So what do you need to do as a PMO? Simple. Apply your skills, understand the activity really well, develop the problem solving skills, because more you solve problems, that's exactly what companies are going to pay you for. Incorporate business research like anything, because you have to focus on certain companies and industries. And last, you got to be solid execution specialist. Trust me. So the question is, how does a digital PMO look like? So, first of all, this rectangles with different colors or boxes basically show that if you have a project management background, you're right at the bottom. However, as you start learning more and more and you gain the experience, the industry starts loving it. And as higher you go with your skills, the barrier to entry is low, which means from a generic, you got to become specialized. As you become specialized, the industry opens up. The civilian industry loves specialization instead of being generic. So the question is, what we do works. And why does it work? Because we have a system. This system has been proven for 4 years, and I can show you some results. The number of people we have trained is over 300, and the number of simulations that we have executed is over 2,200. The point is not that. The point is, we started off with professionals with disabilities, like people who were blind. Why did we do that? Because the unemployment situation for them is exceptionally high, not only in the United States, but globally. People say it's about 70 to 80%. We believe it's about 95 to 98% really. And we have launched their careers. We have fine-tuned that simulation to make it work for you. So what are you going to experience? The first thing is you're going to role play as a project manager at Project Starfish. You're going to experience goal setting and defining objectives. So the first thing is you got to keep an end in mind in the cycle. Why? Because the cycle is real. The second piece, you have to understand you have to build resources, and building teams take trust. If you don't create the trust, you'll never be able to delegate activity because as a project manager, you can not do their job. You can only supervise. So, you have to develop leadership, problem solving capabilities which create value for the customer. And from the customer, you have to get a project, build it, scope it out, execute it really well, and have clear communication with the customer so you can ultimately deliver. If you don't meet objectives, that is a challenge. Every project manager has to meet the objective. In this simulation cycle, you'll go through all of them. So what are the activities that you'll have to be doing? It's simple. Recruit a team and you're going to be given real people, real resumes. You have to work with the teams to show leadership, mentorship by doing business case studies. You have to outreach businesses in the industry and get them on a conversation so you can solve problems. And remember, you can't do it. You'll have to have your team do it and manage the entire process. When the customer gets on a call, you have to moderate the call, solve their problems, and then that is going to result in a business acquisition. And you can only do that if you create value by showing solutions to the customer. And you have a team to execute that business. So, you have to scope the business correctly, build the project, and then execute it really well. On top of that, you have to deliver your commitment. You have to communicate flawlessly, and that is going to lead to a written handoff. You will not be able to get a written handoff without meeting objectives. We suggest that you absolutely get a written recommendation as well because you're going to need it. So let's talk about the skills and the experience you gain. First of all, you are going to get skills of research, doing case studies, and identifying human resources. Very key because human resources are going to be key to execution of the project, which means building trust with the teams, delegating activity, having that problem solving experience with businesses, and selling without selling is going to be key. You never have to sell if you know how to solve problems, which also means to do the same, you'll have to negotiate well, build trust with the customer, gather requirements and scope it out, and set the expectations of your delivery. Which also means when you execute with your team, you have to understand worker psychology because you've got to lead teams and manage teams extremely well. Building the relationship with the customer is so key so that when you deliver the expectations and get the handoff, you'll also be responsible for getting at least $100 from the customer as you're going to be delivering against objectives. That is going to be key. Getting the recommendations from the customer is going to be key. And the result is, the more you repeat this cycle again and again and again, you're going to be experienced as a superior project manager called the digital PMO. So, how does it help you? It's simple. What happens is you've got to elevate your position in the industry. How do you do that? You see, when you start the simulation, you're at the bottom, typically. But after the simulation, you will really get the experience as a digital PMO. On top of that, if you can do some of the advanced trainings that we have built as an ecosystem at Project Starfish, which is, big data, business analysis, Internet of Things, then you have recruitment, sourcing, drones, all that stuff, then you can move into digital technology management where you can probably make a base of, $140,000 easily. So think of what happens when you get the experience. Again, remember, we get back to this slide. These companies are going to be automating. These companies have high manpower and project management requirements. Now you get a foot in the door. You've got to break into this civilian industry. But you'll not be able to do it if you don't have the experience. For example, think of this interview that would happen with a customer, right? Or a company. On the box that has the red color, the interviewer is going to ask the experience that you have in the industry. And if you don't have it, you won't be able to really carry that conversation on. However, on the other side, if you have the experience, you'll be able to show recommendations. You'll be able to show your experience. You'll be able to show the knowledge and the processes and the live experience that is needed in problem solving. That's the reason we say, which situation would you choose? A veteran with just a PMO experience without a civilian industry experience will not be able to talk about it. However, if you can move into the experience through the simulation, you open huge doors that were never opened before. We are going to end this presentation by saying, please look at the other video which has exact steps to run the simulation with us and get started. Thank you.